Minutes. Now here's the thing, come check this out. You're gonna see that this has a nice, really good crust on it. The crust is starting to come up. We're gonna go right into the fat part right here. And now here's the thing, is this piece right here has juice, fat, and crust. Oh my God. Okay, so the first thing we're gonna do is, what I was trying to do is save money. Anytime you're trying to eat meat, you wanna try to do the best you can, save money. So my wife went to Costco and picked up this beef ribeye whole. So what the benefit is it's a little expensive, obviously you see it here, but the price per pound is what I was looking for, and it came out to just like about 10 bucks a pound, which is amazing. Because normally, it's right now at this time that I'm doing this video, it's pushing, geez, like $17, $18 a pound. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take this out of the plastic. I'm gonna show you how to cut it up. Okay, so it's out of the plastic, good to go. Drained it a little bit, so it's just a little drier. And I flip it over because I like to kind of cut on this side. And I typically, what I do is I measure it out with about 2 fingers thickness for my steaks. And I made little slits so I can kind of keep track of it. And I'm actually gonna use just a bread knife to do this. And then what I'm gonna do is just kind of come straight down. And the bread knife actually worked pretty good. I mean, I could obviously get a real knife and stuff like that. Now, a lot of times people will trim the fat off of here. I like to leave all my fat on because when I grill a steak or sear a steak, which I'm going to probably do, I like to have the extra fat on there to kind of add to the flavor, which is good. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just go through here and I'm going to now start cutting some steaks. And I'm going to have all these ready to go here shortly. All right, so I finished cutting them up. I got a full plate. I probably have about 15 of these that came out with just 2 finger measurements. And this is what we're cooking up right now. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna season these. And I just have them so they're slightly dry, they're a little moist. And what I do is I like to use kosher salt. And I like to let it sit on here for at least 30 minutes. And the reason for that is the salt's going to penetrate the membranes, and it actually makes it a little more tender, that kind of thing. And I salt one side, I flip it over, and then I salt the other side. This is just what I have found to be the best steak that you can possibly make at home. I mean, just fantastic. My wife doesn't even like to buy steaks at the restaurant anymore because I do such a good job. So after I've salted both sides, I typically like to just a light coat on one side with the coarse ground pepper. And I just use the great big package right here, just straight off of Amazon. And then I do like to use a little bit of the Holy Cow by Meat Church. The reason is it's got a few things in there. When I say I put just a tiny bit on here, I don't hardly put anything on here. But when I do this side, I do like to do a little pat down on it so that it sticks a little better on it. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna let these rest for probably a good 30 minutes to an hour just out here on my countertop so that the temperatures kind of become almost room temperature, because it helps it cook a lot more evenly when I do that. So I'm gonna show you that in a second, and that's when the love starts. Okay, so steaks have been resting, and now it's time for the magic to happen. And we're going to cook this in a cast iron skillet on my induction oven, which is insane because of how fast this thing heats up. So I don't have it on. I can put my hand on here, which I wouldn't recommend just in case. But I turn on an induction oven. I push that power. It's going to kick in, and what's going to happen is literally in probably less than 60 seconds, this thing is going to start to smoke. Okay, so what's going to happen is it's going to heat up really fast because of the induction oven. But what I like about a Blackstone is this is the perfect way to get the good crust on a steak. And I'm going to use this lard. This is kind of the lard that I use. I also use beef tallow by the same company. I just happen to run out of beef tallow, but I'm going to use the lard today. And so after this, once this starts to heat and get completely super hot, I can feel the heat on there. It's really hot. It will begin to smoke. I'm going to fill my whole house probably with smoke, but I love it because that's the part of cooking. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to sear these on here. Now, real quick about these steaks, just in case. If I were to serve these with like friends and family, I would typically kind of cut these little tails off. Okay, I would cut that off so that it's a nicer presentation. Literally, like I said, less than 60 seconds. We're at that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just take a little bit of a glob and get some lard on here. I don't use much. I use probably about a tablespoon or two. We're going to put that in here. I'm going to scrape it around. so that it gets on here. It's going to smoke like crazy because it just keeps getting hotter and hotter and hotter. And I want that because I want the sear to happen immediately, okay? So now that it's smoking, I'm going to turn my vent fan on here in a second. I'll turn that down just a little bit. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my steak and my ribeye that's been sitting here, and I'm going to throw it on there like that. I'm going to throw my other one on here. I got the big pan on here because I'm going to cook one for my wife as well. I did have a little sliver left over, so I'm going to just toss that in here. And I'm going to let that sear on one side. And then I got some tongs. So what I typically do is just make sure I press it down a little bit. You can see it's really firing up. Put that vent fan on. I'll turn it down a little bit so it's not too loud. And then this is going to sear for probably about a minute on here, because what I wanted to do is just kind of get that crust immediately on one side, and then we're going to flip this over and I'm going to do this. Now, the other thing that I'm going to do, I'm just going to save some time by talking about it. I love the Irish butter, the Kerrygold Irish butter. You can get this at most grocery stores, including Aldi's. I'm going to use this to put in there that we're going to baste our ribeyes with, because when you have the butter on here, it's freaking believable. Okay, so now that I've had them on here, I'm just going to take this. You can see that it did give it a little bit of a sear. Pop this out a little more. So what I'm going to do now is I flipped it over. I'm letting that side sear, but now I'm going to get a knife, pull it out of my drawer. I'm going to cut off a pretty good, probably about a tablespoon or two of butter, and I'm going to stick this kind of in the hot spot. I know how that cooks on my thing. This is going to start to melt. The butter's going to melt. I'm going to use a tablespoon, let that go, and what's going to happen is this is going to start to melt and get the butter all over the place. A lot of times I will sprinkle a little garlic salt on here, just pull it out of my drawer. Not a lot, just a little. And then what I do like, because I've heard somebody talk about this, I got some thyme. A lot of people use real thyme. I've been just kind of a little bit lazy, and I just throw some thyme in there, mostly on the butter, like so. Put it down. Now, what I'm going to do is, now that I've got this and it's seared on one side, right now it's not super hot on the handle. I'm going to put this down. You can see all that butter start to melt down here. I'm going to now slowly, not slowly, but I'm just going to start to baste this a little bit. Just kind of rub the butter on here. Oh my gosh, it smells so good too, by the way. It smells amazing. I'm going to let that go. And then what I typically do is I keep a little bit of a thermometer on here. This is just a meat thermometer that kind of, as soon as you open it, fires right up. You can see the temperature on here. That's what the temperature is in my house, right here where I'm at. And then I'll be able to poke that in the center, and it's going to give me an instant read of what the temperature is. So let me base this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to let this still sear on that side. Then I'm going to flip it. I'll show you that. And then we're going to baste it some more and keep doing that process. All right, seared it up. Now we're going to keep basting. Just baste like that. It's literally just hot butter and hot fat going on here. And from a health perspective, believe it or not, this is amazing for you. Okay, a lot of people don't understand that. If you're eating crap out of a box, you're not getting any nutrients into your body, and it's terrible. This is what real food looks like, okay? I typically buy cows as well. I usually get half a cow, and my wife and I, just the two of us, will go through almost the entire half cow within 2 to 3 months, just by doing different things. So let me just keep basting this. I'm going to show you this here in a second, and when you see the final product, unbelievable. I just keep going back and forth for just a few minutes. Now, here's the thing. Come check this out. You're going to see that this has a nice, really good crust on it. The crust is starting to come up, and that's where a ton of flavor comes from. So it's kind of seared the butter, it's kind of seared the fat, the seasonings, the salt, the pepper are in that crust. So when you cut into it, it's literally magical, okay? All right, so these are about where I want them. So I'm actually going to take one, and I'm going to stick it right on top of my cutting board right here. All right, so I just put this on here because I wanted to show you what it looks like. We're gonna go primeval and use a Special Forces knife. This is a cold steel SRK, by the way. It's a lot more fun to cut a steak like this. But we're gonna go right into the fat part right here. and you can see it's just about the where I like it. I kind of like it a little well because it's just, I don't like it raw, that kind of thing. And now here's the thing, is this piece right here has juice, fat, and crust. Oh my God. I personally, come here, I don't think you can have a better steak than that. Oh, I want you to eat it. Oh. Wait, you gotta keep the videotape in here. How is it? So good. Mmm. I gotta get to the table and eat this, but if you're looking to make the best steak you've ever made, if you're looking to make the best steak you've ever made, doing a cast iron skillet with the butter, the braising, searing it, putting it on there, absolutely incredible. So thanks for watching. Go do this.